just want to say to Flowmaster, I still love you. It's not you, it's me that's changed. And yeah, it's awkward, but I just had to make a change. And but I still love you. I still enjoy you. I just not like I used to. What's up, Purist? It's Bob from Purist Motorsports. We're getting to work on our Bleakley Impressor this week, and true to form, we hit a couple of roadblocks. Didn't get as far as planned, and I think you know exactly how that goes if you're working on or wrenching on your own car. There's some times where you literally hit a massive wall or a speed bump, as I call them. The other way you could describe it is a rude interruption. But we made it all the way to here, and I figured I would share where we are, because I'll be honest, I really wanted to, let's go for a ride. I was hoping we'd get there, but due to unforeseen circumstances this week, both family and with the car, there were delays. So anyway, what we've done is this. So before we've restored, if you, I guess, go back, those who have followed the channel for a while, you'll know I did a video on the exhaust on this car when I had changed some things out a couple of years ago. I actually took some time and restored the factory headers. I will say factory. Restored the headers that were put on it as the Impressor package. They are either a JBA unit or Ford Motorsport unit. I'm gonna say this, my personal opinion is that at the time, in the late 80s, 89, 90, 91, JBA could have potentially been the supplier for the FMS headers because they look so similar at the time. But that's an assumption on my part. I'm not stating that. Please do not parrot that. I'm not going to say that I actually put all that together and that's exactly what it is. That is me taking two and two and making an assumption, okay? So don't quote that, but I just have a feeling based on the way things look, they could have been the supplier. Hey, if you know, comment below. There's some people that are watching this, I'm sure, that worked for Ford back in the day or a dealer, and you do know. Would love to have that information to actually like confirm it. Anyways, the headers that came on this and the Impressor package were either a Ford Motorsport or JBA unit. That's actually in the option list. It lists that as either one of those being the header option for this. This car has what looks like the Saleen headers at the time, which were the Ford SSC headers with the badge removed. And I had them, they were all rusty. One flange actually had been messed up. You can watch the whole video on that. Just look for the card up above. But go to put them on the car and we were rudely interrupted. One of the studs, the threaded part on the flange of the header, had actually been like stripped out. It was tight, I tightened it down, and then when I went to put the ball on the socket from the H-pipe on and tighten it, it pulled it through the threads. Of course, then, we had to take the header all the way back off, take it, and I actually just was like, forget it. At this point, they're ceramic coated. We just tack welded that stud, but it's in a place where it's not gonna be readily noticeable. Although I know all my buddies that when this car goes to any kind of meet or shows, they're gonna ask about it and point it out to people if it can be seen, just as a joke. But, so that's where that first delay of rude interruption came from. But we got that done and got that put on the car. Then, the other thing that we did is these cars, at least in the pictures that I have of this car, would have had Champion plug wires on it. At the time they were red in the picture of the engine bay that I have, that a good friend of mine that I know now took the picture 30 years, yeah, at least 30 years ago now. it had red wires. And at the time, the Champion wires were being used on the SSC. And the Impressor cars, I'm gonna assume some of them got them. I'm not gonna say all of them, but I know that this one had them because of the pictures. So I put the Champion wires back on. These are not cheap these days, but this is the box here. I'll show you. They're very expensive. And thanks to a good friend of mine, we're able to score a set. Anyway, so we put those on, and thanks to a good friend of mine, Jeff Stevens, up at Northeast Saleen Source, he gave me a tip when I bought these wires. He said, hey, just FYI, they can be bad out of the box. He chased an issue on a car of his because he's owned an SSC, S351. He's actually building an S351 clone right now out of a car that's absolutely gorgeous. So anyways, maybe stay tuned for that because he and I are chatting. I'd love to do a video on it. If you watch this, Jeff, yeah, I'm poking you. I'd love to do a video on that car. It's awesome. But he said the wires can actually arc. So what I did was actually started the car and then just turned the lights out and just see if there were any arcs. And I got lucky. These wires are actually perfectly fine. Thank you to Rick for offering them to me. They are now on the car. So yeah, those are the first two things we did. Then, we tackled, as you can see, it's still on jack stands, and there's a reason for that, the exhaust swap. So, when we got this, and I'll say this, I have to, before I get into this, you know, with Flowmasters, I just want to say to Flowmaster, I still love you. It's not you, it's me that's changed. And yeah, it's awkward, but I just had to make a change. And but I still love you, I still enjoy you, I just not like I used to. So to that, one of the first mods I did to my 88 GT, what is this, 25 years ago when I first bought it, obviously remove the silencer and then put a K&N filter in it. The next mod, when you have extra money, because it wasn't cheap for me at the time, is an off-road H-pipe and Flowmasters. That was definitely the first thing I did to the car, those right in that order. Air silencer removal, K&N panel, and then swap the exhaust out. And I loved it at the time. Nowadays, I guess my taste is changing. Plus, this car would have actually had factory catback on it. And the reason we can tell that is because of the hangers that were left on the Flowmaster mufflers. These hangers, let's see here, right here. These hangers here are actually factory, off of a factory muffler. The Dynamaxx is a much wider bracket. So this car is very likely to have had factory mufflers on it. Although Dynamaxx would have been an option for this car. It's actually listed into the sales brochure of the Impressor package. Although I don't know how many cars came with that, if any at all. It's pretty evasive for a dealership to actually cut and weld. There's a lot of time. If you think about money, this is what this dealership was doing. They were offering it to make money. And I grow an enthusiast base, but to make money first and foremost. It takes a lot of labor to slice and put in mufflers, especially on a brand new exhaust. Saleen did that on the SSC. It's probably where the Impressor package idea came from, I'm going to assume. I'd love to chat with the sales manager to find out. But the couple of cars I've been around that are low mileage, all original Impressor cars still have a Ford factory catback on it. And I can prove to you that the hangers I just showed you are for a factory muffler because I actually have an Uncut factory catback, if I can do this, right here. So as you can see, these are the brackets I was pointing to. They are very, if not the same. And that's typical of muffler shops when they put Flowmasters on at the time. They would just cut those, torch those brackets and weld them to the mufflers. Sometimes they would actually just cut the little hanger and weld it to the muffler, but a better shop would have done what these guys did. So they were installed with care, as much care as you could get. So the car now actually has a Dynamaxx Catback on it, 2 1/4. It is all discontinued. The pipes are stainless like factory. Apparently, it's like, from what I understand, Dynamaxx was, or Walker, was the supplier for Ford. And this time they won the contract of building the exhaust for these cars. So the factory is actually a Walker system. And then the Dynamaxx is the aftermarket version of that. That has now on this super turbos. The part number is 17735. That was used on the SSC, the SCs, some of the SA10s, and on the 93 SCs. So these were offered then. They're not made anymore. The muffler is still made, but the bracket, the 17735 part number, is no longer made, or let's put it this way, it is not in production in the foreseeable future at Tenneco, who owns the Walker Dynamaxx brand. Thanks to my friend Daniel Garn over at Foxbody Motorsports. He worked for Tenneco at the time, confirmed that. They may put some into production if demand goes up. So anyways, this car actually has those mufflers on it. There is one issue, and that's why this is still on jack stands. And I've seen this happen at shows where if you were to look at the exhaust tip, this one over here is actually sticking out. This one over here is barely there. And that's because that pipe is tucked in way underneath for whatever reason. Just being the type of person I am, I'm not gonna live with that. So I've actually ordered a passenger side flow tube to push the muffler back and give me room to adjust that. I think even if I were to weld the pipe tip to pipe tip of the muffler, in other words, the edge of the flow tube and the edge of the tailpipe, I don't think it would stick out. I still don't think it would stick out far enough. So that will give me more adjustment. That's why this is still like this. And I'll probably leave the clamps on it and then tack weld, just tack in place so that the pipes don't move. Just for me starting it up, the driver's side pipe has already moved a little. So that's where we are. I love the sound of these mufflers now. They're just, I mean, I really enjoy the Flowmaster sound. Don't get me wrong, it's iconic from the late 80s and pretty much all through the 90s, to the point of most hot rods, even in the Chevelle, Camaro community, well, even in the Dodge community with your Chargers and Hemi Cudas. There's Plymouth, sorry. The Flowmasters, it's iconic. It really does sound good, but one, this is what this car could have come with, and it's an acceptable catback for MCA judging. I do know that from my friend Bob over in out west. He's got an '86 Saleen that has this catback on it, because the original catbacks typically rust through, even if it was a car that sat in low mileage. If all the owner did was start it up, the inside of the mufflers would rust out. It would basically rust from the inside out. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. It's been I hope you've enjoyed the sounds of this. I'm sure there are varying opinions as to the Flowmasters coming off. I'm sure some people will be like, I love it. Oh, with those, so the Flowmasters sound so much better. But I've just moved on, man. That's all I gotta say. But that's where we are with this. Stay tuned for some interior stuff. We're gonna go through that next once we get this exhaust sorted out. Waiting on parts. But I did want to give everybody an update on this because it sounds good to me. I love it. I can't wait to drive it. As I always say, whether you're driving or restoring them, always enjoy them. Peace.